workshops every month. We usually work for the end of the month. Last week, usually on a Wednesday. Today had to be the Friday, which is fine. So I do want to thank everybody for coming today, plugging in, and attending our workshop. I'm going to hand this over to Ms. Nunez. At the end of the workshop, we will have questions, question and answer, as well as a trivia question for a free giveaway. Okay. So thank you everybody for joining us this morning. And we're ready for you, Ms. Nunez. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much, Christina and Michael, for the invitation. I'm here with my coworker, Alex Hart. We are here representing Community Housing Innovation, and it was a pleasure to be invited into your monthly meeting. So my name is Maciel Rodriguez Nunez, and I'm a rental counselor here at Community Housing Innovations. I help individuals and families secure and maintain stable housing through counseling, education, and connection to the community resources, just like here at WDOM. Okay, so today we'll be covering fair housing rights, eviction prevention resources, and CHI's housing programs like our CHI grant and the Rental Safe Housing Incentive Program. But before we begin, how many of you guys are renters, homeowners, or are looking to buy your first home? Give me a reaction. Let me know if who is my market today. Who am I speaking to? Are you a renter, homeowner, or are you planning on buying your first home in the future, in the near future? I don't get to. Do I see a reaction? Good thumbs up. Okay, so let's begin. Here at Community Housing Innovations, Inc., we provide housing and human services to support social and economic independence. But among those, we also do HUD certified housing counseling, home buyer education, home ownership grant program, financial literacy, foreclosure and eviction prevention. We do shelter and temporary housing, transitional housing, supportive services, rental assistance, and we also do affordable housing developments. Let's begin. So I give it to Alex, which she will start with her presentation.
Thank you, Maciel. Hello, everyone. My name is Alexandria Har. I am a HUD certified housing retention counselor here at CHI. My main duty here is I help people going through foreclosure and eviction. My information is below. You can reach me at ahar@communityhousing.org, and my phone number is 845-330-3948, extension 3001. I'm going to share some information with you today about fair housing and your rights as a renter or a homeowner. At any time, you're able to take a screenshot or use your phone to take a photo of the screen for your own information. And don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any issues or any questions. We're going to start right now speaking about something that affects all of us, which is fair housing and the rights you should know as a homeowner and renter and what you need to know to protect yourself. So let's start with the history of fair housing. Fair housing started with the Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Movement fought against racial discrimination in various aspects, including housing. The assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on April 4th, 1968 was the catalyst that helped pass the Fair Housing Act of 1968, which was passed a week after his assassination. The Fair Housing Act of 1968 prohibits discrimination in the sale, rental, and financing of housing based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. In 1974, familial status was added as a protected class, And in 1988, disability was added as a protected class. In 2015, with the Obama administration, they passed something called Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing, where nonprofits and other smaller agencies will get funding and assistance to help people either with their fair housing problems and offering solutions and enforcing fair housing laws. So in New York State, the human rights law also prohibits discrimination in housing for the following classes. The Federal Fair Housing Act protected classes that I mentioned in the previous slide. Marital status, so you can't be discriminated based on who you're married to or if you're single. Sexual orientation, age, as long as you're 18 and over. Military status, and New York State prohibits discrimination for sources of income as long as that's a legal source of income, and that includes grant funds. Cooperatives, however, are not covered by fair housing laws. When you purchase a co-op, you're technically purchasing shares of a property and not real property. The fair housing classes are still protected, but it's a whole different game. So some of the illegal actions that can happen against a class member, so refusing to rent or sell, or refusing to negotiate a loan for housing based upon somebody's appearance or race or religion or anything like that. Giving false information about availability of housing. So a landlord can't tell one person that an apartment's available and then tell another person that apartment is not available. Providing unequal and different terms or conditions for housing and discriminatory advertising. So you can't offer somebody a higher interest rate because of who they are over somebody else. Predatory lending practices, such as offering higher interest rates, fees, and lending patterns correlated to race or ethnicity, is kind of what we just spoke about. Predatory lending is something you need to watch out for. It's unfortunate, but some people may be taken advantage of in terms of finances and offers. Steering or directing certain racial ethnic groups to specific areas. So if you have a realtor who is showing an Asian American family houses in a predominantly only Asian American neighborhood, that is called steering. And you need to fairly show anyone interested in purchasing a home any neighborhood that they choose. And threatening those that exercise their rights or reporting discrimination. So you cannot be retaliated against for filing a fair housing complaint. There are a couple legal exceptions when it comes to fair housing, such as over 55 communities, religious groups that own housing, private clubs. And if you are, let's say, a single person who lives in a two-family home, you may not advertise, but you can be a little bit picky about who you want to rent to, as long as you're not using a realtor and you don't own more than 4 units. Some ways to protect yourself. So receive homebuyer education and counseling from a HUD-approved agency like CHI. Ask questions regarding things that are unclear or don't seem right. Read all documents. Don't sign blank documents and keep signed and dated copies. Get your own home inspector and attorney. You want to make sure that you have a team of people who are only on your side and can best instruct you on what to do next. You need to compare offers from multiple lenders, including the interest rate, fees, and terms. Our rule is you want to have a minimum of 3. If you're shopping for a mortgage, talk to at least 3 lenders to see who's offering you the best deal. And avoid lenders and realtors that advertise no credit, bad credit, and services that offer to do everything for you, because that could be a red flag for predatory lending. And then importantly, check your credit report. Everyone should know what's on their credit report. There are 3 credit reporting agencies that all converse onto your credit report, and occasionally they get something wrong, or one of those agencies is reporting something that the other 2 are not. So I highly suggest you go to www.annualcreditreport.com. It's free. I've done it over my phone. It takes under 10 minutes. Review your credit report, and if anything seems wrong, you can dispute it. So, where to file a fair housing violation? If you feel like any of your rights have been violated, you have 1 year from the alleged violation to file a complaint with HUD. There are no costs associated for making a complaint, and again, you cannot be legally retaliated against for filing a complaint. Some of the places you can go to for assistance is HUD.gov. You can go to the New York State Division of Human Rights, Long Island Housing Services, or Westchester Residential Opportunities. So some tenant rights and responsibilities. So some of the responsibilities you have as a renter is paying rent on time. That's probably the biggest one. You have a right to privacy. Your landlord cannot just open the door and come into your apartment unless there's 24 hours of warning or there's a big emergency. You have the right to due process in eviction proceedings. In New York, you need to go before a judge. They can't foreclose or evict you without a proper hearing. Abide by lease terms. If you need to read your lease carefully before signing it. You need to read the small print. You got to see if your landlord has on the lease that you're not allowed to have more than 3 people in your home at a time. You can't have a party with 20 people. So you got to think about what's important to you and really review it when you're looking over leases. You have the right to quiet enjoyment. You have the right to live in a habitable unit, and you have the right to withhold rent for major repairs. So this is something that I would usually tell someone to speak with legal aid about before doing. But if, like, let's say you have a broken doorknob and your landlord has taken a long time to fix it, that is not a good enough reason to withhold rent. But if you've had a leak from upstairs that's been pouring water onto your floor for 3 months and your landlord has done nothing, or you have no hot water or no heat, those are things that might be able for you to withhold rent until it is fixed. And you also have the right to maintain the property responsibly. So you don't leave holes in the walls, things like that. So the good cause eviction law is something that began in April 20th of 2024. It has been enacted in New York. Landlords cannot evict tenants without a valid reason or a good cause. Tenants can challenge unreasonable rent increases in housing court if they are evicted for non-payment of rent. There are caps for raising rent. It's anywhere from 5 to 10% based on the inflation and the cost of living in your specific town. Tenants have the right to renew their leases. Landlords have to provide a notice of good cause eviction applicably or inapplicably to their tenants when they may take certain actions. Some homes are not covered by the protections under the good cause eviction law, such as sublets, manufactured homes, dormitories, and hotels. So here are some strategies to prevent eviction. Number 1 is most important. It's communicate. So promptly address any issues you have with your landlord, preferably before they even occur. So if you know that you're getting laid off or something is going to happen, that you are going to lose income, or know that it's likely that you are going to miss a payment, you're in a much better position to tell your landlord ahead of time to hopefully work something out. Also, ask for help, contact us at CHI or legal aid. It is much, much, much easier to help someone who is behind 1 month in rent than helping someone who is 4 or 5 months owing back rent. So time is of the essence. I know it could be very overwhelming and a lot of people tend to shut down. but ask for help, because the sooner you ask for help, the easier it is to fix the problem. Pay rents on time, set up automatically payments if possible. It's something that can be easy to forget. So set up automatic payments or put it in your calendar so that you don't forget to pay the rent. Understand your lease, be aware of your rights and responsibilities. Seek assistance, reach out to CHI or legal aid for help, and explore rental assistance programs. Research and apply for available assistance. Okay. So what to do if you receive an eviction or a foreclosure notice? Again, contact your landlord or lender immediately. Discuss, if there are any things you can do to solve it, such as a repayment plan. Seek professional help from CHI or legal aid. Avoid scams or quick fix requests. So foreclosure itself is a public process. If you go into foreclosure, it will be available online for others to see, and a lot of realtors, lawyers, and other organizations might contact you saying like, hey, we see you're in foreclosure. If you sign your deed over to us, we'll pay off your arrears. There's a lot of scams and a lot of predatory behavior that happens to people who are already vulnerable and going through a hard time. So just be very aware when you're going through foreclosure or eviction. If you're receiving letters in the mail and phone calls, just be wary of that. Keep records of all communications you have. Keep records of emails you've sent to your landlords, of times that you've called them, different things like that. Review your lease and mortgage terms, and know your state and county foreclosure and eviction laws. One other thing I want to touch on, because I meant to say it in the rental part and did not, there are two things called reasonable accommodation and reasonable modifications. So if you are someone living with a disability, you are able to ask for a reasonable modification. A modification is where you can ask for something such as a ramp being built, or if you have one of those bathtub shower combinations, you could potentially ask for it to become a walk-in shower to make your life easier. So things like that really, help your quality of life. You can't ask for a whole kitchen remodel and things like that. It needs to be reasonable, but you are entitled to ask for those types of things. Reasonable accommodation is a little bit different. That is less of like a building physical structure. That is more, let's say you're someone who suffers from debilitating anxiety. If every month on the first of the month, you have to physically go to the office to drop off a check, and that gives you too much anxiety, you can ask for a reasonable accommodation where on the first of the month, you could either mail that check or have the landlord come and collect it from you so you don't have to do that thing. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of that. Next slide. Thank you. So the eviction prevention program at CHI, what we do is we provide financial counseling, financial analysis. We work on creating a budget. We go over your credit. We go through your spending habits, and we try to make up a plan that works for you. We collaborate with both tenants and landlords to divert a case from going to court. So what we will do is we will contact your landlord to see if there is any sort of payment plan that can be worked out. It's much easier negotiating with a landlord versus a lot of people live in apartment buildings with giant property management companies. That's a little bit more technical. Assistance filing out applications and forms if you ever have trouble. Um, printing and scanning things can be difficult for people, but let's say your eyesight's not great, you have difficult reading, we will help you do things like that. We will refer clients to income enhancement services, social services, and legal aid services. So if you come to us, you tell me a little bit about your situation, I could say, hey, contact legal aid. This is probably something we could help you with. Sometimes we know of other organizations that are local that might be able to help with rental arrears or utility assistance and things like that. Those are all things that we can refer you to. And we also educate clients on fair housing, tenants' rights, and eviction proceedings. At this time, our eviction prevention program is only available to residents of Westchester County. And then next, our foreclosure prevention program. That is available for residents of Westchester and Dutchess County. It's similar to eviction prevention, but again, we educate clients on their loss mitigation options. When it comes to foreclosure and owning a home, you have some options such as forbearance, where they might forgive your mortgage for a couple of set months that are agreed upon. They might roll your debt to the back of the loan. There's something called a loan modification, where they might rework the numbers to put the debt that you owe back into a monthly payment and things like that. We would negotiate with the mortgage servicer on your behalf to help you come up with an option. Settlement conferences. So again, in New York, it needs to be a judicial foreclosure, meaning you will have to go to court at some point. A lot of people are very nervous about going to court. I found that, at least when I've dealt with Westchester and Dutchess, the court is very pro home ownership, so there's no reason to be nervous. One of us will accompany you there. We'll probably do most of the talking. Again, we can assist people with applications and forms, and we provide financial counseling, budgeting, and advocacy. So I believe questions we're going to keep until the end of the presentation. So I am going to hand this back over to Ms. Rodriguez Nunez. Oh, wait, never mind. So some eviction and foreclosure resources that you can go to are the New York State Affordable Housing Corporation, the United Way Helpline at 211, Legal Services of the Hudson Valley Justice Center, local Department of Social Services, local emergency or transitional shelters, food banks in your area, and the New York State Department of Labor. Okay, now I'm going to give this back to Ms. Nunez. Thank you, everybody.
Hi, welcome everybody again. Thank you so much. And let's begin with our housing opportunities here as Community Housing Innovations. So to begin, we have the first-time homebuyer ownership grant here at CHI that is up to $60,000. Our grant is available in Westchester, Dutchess, and Long Island, which is Nassau or Suffolk counties. This grant program is funded by New York State Affordable Housing Corporation, or as we call it, AHC. And here CHI offers down payment assistance for the following properties: single-family homes, townhouses, condominiums, and cooperatives. The property must be located again in Westchester, Dutchess, Nassau, or Suffolk County to utilize this grant. And the grant could be combined with any other eligible grant programs. As long as the grant do not come from the same mothering fundings, they could be combined with our grant here at CHI. So the program criteria is you must be a first-time home buyer. The total gross annual household income must be within the AHC limits. We'll see it later on. The mortgage pre-approval needs to be coming from one of the participating lenders. The home buyer must invest at least 3% of the total of the household home purchase, and a 3% asset requirement must be met at the time of the application. Meaning this 3%, you must have it at the time of the application, not putting it together after you submit the application to us. The liquid assets may not exceed 25% of purchase price of the property. You cannot sign a contract of sale until CHI requirements are met and the property is approved by us here at CHI. The grant funds aren't available until closing, and you must complete a HUD certified homebuyer education course. Here at Community Housing Innovations, we use the eHome America. Grant funds must be used towards down payment and or closing cost assistance. So we have a down payment and closing assistance, 49% of the grant, and then the rest, the 51%, must be used for renovation and repairs. So not the whole amount will be used for down payment or the whole amount for renovation. So it has to be split 49-51. The program criteria is as follows for Westchester. So the maximum property purchase price for Westchester is $700,000. So the property cannot exceed $700,000. The application must meet CHI's housing and debt to income ratio. The housing ratio cannot exceed 36% of monthly income. The debt to income ratio cannot exceed 42% of monthly income. And you must follow adheres to annual residency home monitoring, meaning CHI will be contacting the grant person that gets it every year, making sure that that home is still your primary residence. This must be a primary residence for 10 to 20 years, and you must follow CHI's program requirements. Here is for the renovation components. So like I said, 51% of the grant must be used for renovation and repairs. The home inspection must be completed prior to the contract signing for the sale. The HUD certified rehab planner must be completed 5 days after the home inspection is done. The health and safety repairs and renovation are mandatory, and additional renovation and repairs are typically covered. So let's say that you find a house that you would love to have your dream closet, but this house requires a new ceiling or requires a new boiler system. During this inspection or during this renovation, the contractor will make sure that the renovation for the roof or the boiler is done prior to your dream closet, making sure that it's healthy and safe for you, the home, prior to dealing with your wants. The needs will be covered. New constructed homes or fully rehab properties do not qualify. So the property that you choose for this program must be at least 3 years old. Renovation funds are held in escrow until renovation is completed, meaning here at CHI will pay directly the contractor. You don't have to handle or deal with the stress of dealing with the contractor payment, none of that. We here will do that for you. And an energy assessment will be done prior to the post-closing of the, and after the rehab is completed. Here is the income, the household income for Westchester based on family size. So let's say that a household of 4 people, their income cannot exceed 186,320. So if you're a family of 4 that lands below that income limits, you could definitely apply for this program. And here's the grant process. So first, you must attend a CHI's first-time homebuyer orientation, which are most of the times held online, and we do it at least 3 times a month. So via Zoom, you just log in and you're there, and you could do that. Then after that, you must complete the homebuyer education course, again with eHome America. Then you must contact a CHI participating lender and obtain a mortgage pre-approval. After that, you go into our website, communityhousing.org, and download the CHI grant application, which is, this is in our website, it's the only place where you could find this application. You must submit the application with all the required documents, meaning on page 16, you not only to submit that filled application, but you must also provide copies of all the documents required. With the application, there is a fee. For a single applicant is $110, and for joint application is $140, and those funds are non-refundables. Then after that, after we receive the application, you get an email confirmation with a wait list number from us. And then phases 1 through 3, each of those stages takes between 2 to 4 weeks. It depends on the applicant. If the applicant is responsive to us, they send all the documents, they act on all the requests that we have, your application could be finished within a month or two, but it all depends on the applicant. The main way of communication that we use here at our home ownership department in community housing is of email. So you must pay attention to your email because that's the main way that we communicate. So moving on to the Rental Safe Housing Incentive Program, which is our newest program here at Community Housing. Does any one of you remember the Hurricane Ida? So this program, or RESHI, how we call it for short, was founded by Homes and Community Renewals, or HCR, in response to the damages caused by Hurricane Ida. The Hurricane Ida occurred in September 1st, 2021, and it caused major floodings throughout New York City, Long Island, and Mid-Hudson region. This program is up to $50,000 in awards, possibly, and it has 3 awards, which relocation, rental relocation incentive, home ownership assistance, and moving assistance. So for the rental relocation incentive, this is financial assistance to help assist the applicant to move into safe permanent rental housing. This also applies for those who have already relocated as a result of Hurricane Ida. The award cannot exceed $50,000, and the rental unit must pass inspection, meaning that this rental unit will be going out to making sure that that unit is safe and healthy for you. Then we have the home ownership assistance, which is financial assistance to purchase safe permanent housing. Here, the applicant must be renting at the time their primary residence at the time of the application, and this award is equal to the PD and the PDAB multiplied by 12. The closing costs eligible here for buyers is for at or below 120% of AMI, and the total down payment and closing cost assistance cannot exceed $50,000. Applicants are required to complete a home buyer education and a one-on-one counseling with us here at Community Housing Innovations. The housing ratio for home ownership assistance cannot exceed 25% of monthly income, just like our grant. And the most important part is that this home ownership assistance for RESHI could be combined with our grant here at CHI. And this is big, guys, because this means that if an applicant was affected by Hurricane Ida and will like to purchase their first home, they have up to $50,000 from RESHI. But if they also apply for the CHI grant, they could possibly walk into homeownership with at least $110,000 in just awards from these 2 different grants. So imagine walking into homeownership with $110,000 in grant awards. This means that you could be set for a good few years into like payments or down payments. This could definitely help you, okay? And then we have moving assistance, which is financial assistance for moving costs into safe and permanent housing, either rental or home ownership. This incentive here is available for those who have yet to move or have already moved. And the money for the moving assistance does not count towards the $50,000 that you could get on the rental relocation or the home ownership part. So it's 2 separate payments. The eligibility criteria for RESHI is that the renter must have rented in the primary residence in any of the eligible counties. For RESHI, you must have rented either in Westchester, Nassau, Suffolk, Orange, Dutchess, and Rockland. You must relocate as a result of the impact of Hurricane Ida. The safe housing must be located outside of the 100-year floodplain. You must follow CHI and HCR program requirements. the household income is within the program income limits, there is a first consideration for those applicants that are up to 80% of AMI. And then there's a second consideration for those applicants that are, the AMI is 81% or up to 160, but they must be part of a vulnerable population. You may ask yourself, who is a vulnerable population? Is as follows: is a family with children under the age of 18, senior, disabled individual, veteran, people with limited English proficiency, immigrants, single female head of households, LGBTQ plus individual, historically disadvantaged member of protected classes, including race, color, national origin, religion, sex, and familial status, or any cases of hardship. So basically anybody that was affected by Hurricane Ida could possibly be awarded this RESHI grant. And here is the income limit for the program, just like our grant here for CHI. It works the same way. So it's based on the household size. So let's say a family of 4, again, for Westchester, their income cannot exceed $272,000 in order to qualify. So if your income limit is way below that, based on your household, please make sure that you could apply. These funds are limited, and it's there, and the application is open until March of 2026. So if you were affected by Hurricane Ida and you would like to apply, please log in. You could go into our website, communityhousing.org. When you go into services, you go into home ownership, mid-page, you will find the rental safe housing incentive, and also you will find there the community housing application for the grant program. If you have any questions, this is our information. This is our intake and coordinators information. That's our, you could email us or call us. This is our addresses for the White Plains office. Thank you so much, guys. So if you have any questions, we'll be now taking them.
And if you don't feel comfortable, I'm Ms. Christina Abad again. If you don't feel comfortable, speaking out loud, you can always use the chat box to ask your questions. And then we can also respond from there as well. So we're going to give you about 5 minutes if anybody has, or about 2 to 3 minutes if anybody has any questions in regards to what they heard today at the workshop. Feel free.
So we have a question. Does household size include children? Yes, it does. Alex, this question is for you. Can undocumented immigrants be protected under the housing laws that you mentioned?
Yes, they can. There might be, other problems. It's hard to tell when you're not on a person by person basis, but I would say, yeah, there are protections for you being an undocumented immigrant.
Any other questions, guys? I'll put back our information so you guys could have it as well. That if you feel shy of asking it now, you could definitely reach out to us, and we're more than we'll definitely get back to you and answer those.
Yes, I have a question. When you speak about the person's rights regarding landlords and tenants, if a person is renting from maybe a two-family home or like an in-law apartment, the person owns the renting from owns the home. and they decide that they're selling the home and they're telling them, hey, you have to move because I'm selling. Do the laws change in terms of the eviction process?
So it depends if you're staying in like with a private landlord who owns like a two-family home or a mother-in-law suite or something. It depends if you have signed a contract or a lease with them. Because in the lease it should say something about how much warning you should be getting before having to move out. Basically, the homeowner is allowed to sell. That would be covered under the good cause eviction, but it couldn't be like, hey, you have to get out in 2 days. Usually you would need like at least a month to 6 months to a year, depending on the lease and other situations.
That was a really, really good question. That is something that I have been getting as a housing advocate a couple of calls in regards to. So, with that also being said, that's only you stated for individuals that own their own property. Now, under the good cause of, the good cause eviction, are they able to do that? Say an individual has a voucher, like a Section 8 program, or it's being subsidized. Are they able to do that as well, even though they're accepting they're continuing to accept the vouchers from the state?
So generally, if you have a voucher and you're living in like an apartment building, especially one that has like property management and things like that, terms would have to stay the same until the end of your lease. So then at that point, at the end of your lease, at that point, the new property management could either raise your rent, which might kind of force you to have to decide if you're going to stay there or not. But usually your voucher would carry over, and generally um, the property management would continue to take it, but I've had instances where a new company took over at the end of the lease. They're like, we're raising your rent by a lot. And I've had to have, renters decide if they're going to be able to stay at that property or leave while the lease is over.
Okay, great, great. Thank you for that information. Are there any other questions at this time? They did provide their information just in case, as Ms. Nunez, advised, if you don't feel comfortable saying it here, you can always reach out to them, on a one-on-one basis and ask those questions as well. Okay. I do want to advise everyone that did attend today, we will be sending out a quiz for the gift incentive that we do have. So please look out for that as well. So everybody, the 16 individuals that I do have here, you will receive the quiz sent to you, okay? I do want to thank everyone for attending today. As I discussed before, we do this monthly workshop. Oh, it kicked me out. Okay, I do apologize. I'm sorry. I'm on the phone. I do apologize. My service is going in and out. But yes, we do this monthly workshop every month at the end of the month. I do appreciate every attendee that did take their time to grab the information that was provided today. Community Housing Innovations, you guys are amazing. You do have
Thank
so
you.
many resources that can help out consumers as well as other organizations that we do serve. So I do want to say that. Um, Thank you again. I hope everyone has a great weekend. And I hope the information did reach someone that can utilize it.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you,
guys for having us.
Christina.
Have a great day.
All righty. Thanks again. Have a great weekend, everyone.